Greetings guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. I'm a professional intuitive empath. For those of you that are new here, I'm so happy to have you joining me today. And we are going to get right into the video. So, I have a download and a message and a couple of things that are happening here. They're going to have me work with a few different cards, and the message is about falling for your type. Now, we all have types, right? So when someone says what's your type, we're thinking about physical attributes. But what I want us to do is to shift into the understanding that we have a predilection to fall for a type of personality more than we would just the physical traits. For some of us, love is not just relegated to the aesthetic. It's relegated to, there are a million things that go into the actual oxytocin release, the serotonin energy of falling in love. But what I want you to understand is that because of childhood wounding, some of us are predisposed to have a type. Now, I noticed something that happened recently on my 40th birthday. One of my dear sweet girlfriends took me out. We were living our best life, and I had a lovely hall pass from my hubby, and we went to a strip club. Now, it was empty because hashtag COVID. We wore our masks, we were protected, everybody be relaxed. We're good. We were good. And the place was empty. Can I really be honest with you? But because it was birthday time, we were in VIP. We had bottles, scents, and all the things that you do when you're having that moment. Now, because of that, the girls all paid a lot of attention. Also, probably because the place was empty. So, that there was a couple of three things happening that contributed to that. But this is where this lesson came from. Because as we were in the club, I found myself having my first 40th birthday drinks and shots, and I was enjoying myself and chatting with my friend, and we were getting a lot of attention from these ladies who were, I think, really bored, honestly, because it was so slow and there was nobody in there, and they were just happy to see like other humans. But I found myself doing readings, which is what I do. I could be in a bathroom stall and end up doing a reading with somebody. It just is the way my life goes. So we were talking, and I was energetically doing readings, and I didn't announce like, oh, this is what I do and whatever until later in the night when they're like, what are you like, how do you know my life, like, so that kind of thing. There was a couple of girls, and they were all really lovely, and we did all the things that you do when you're in a strip club, living our best life and laughing and having a good time. But what I will tell you is there was one person that gravitated over to me, and I just happened to, you guys that are here on my channel understand and know that I'm a bisexual woman. So when I saw her, I was like, oh, she's really attractive. Like, I was physically attracted to her. But the thing about it is that I thought was really interesting was that when she came over to chat, she was the type that I am attracted to energetically, which let me know that I have more healing to do, and also had me super grateful for my husband at home. The reason I say this is this, not because I was in any danger or any temptation or anything. It wasn't that. She was broken, and we were joking about something, and we were like, oh, we're gonna get some more drinks. We just said get some more. Me and my friend, it's loud, it's a strip club. She couldn't hear us, and she said, we're just gonna get some more. And she's like, what? The girl like perks up. She's like, you have drugs? And I thought, oh my goodness. Out of all of the girls in the club and all of the girls that are over here paying attention, every single girl that was working that night came over and chatted with us and whatever. And again, this is what they're paid to do. This is what they were supposed to do considering we were in VIP. But I also know my energy, and I know my friend's energy, and I knew that we were having a good time, and we looked like a good time. So we had a good time. But I thought it was really interesting, and my friend and I joked about it the next day. I said to her, I'm so grateful for my husband and for my relationship, because if not, I would be living under a bridge trying to take care of her and her kids, and that would be exactly my life. And not to say that we had some kind of amazing kismet connection, we did not, but I recognized in her when I immediately saw her, I don't know, something about her. And when she came over and we started chatting, I was like, oh, you have addictions and codependencies, and hashtag she's human, right? So there was no judgment that I had of her humanity. I am human, I get it. But what I realized is that she was attracted to me, and I was attracted to her, and we spent a good amount of time talking, but it was because she needed help. She recognized my empath energy. I recognized whatever broken thing in her that made me ever feel like this was something that would be an okay situation. And what I mean by that is I have dated her type before. I know her type. Broken and kind of hustling and kind of con artisty and kind of acting innocent, but like the reveal of the mask immediately, because she was just like, I'm just on hard times and my dude got in trouble and just all the stuff. But as soon as like she thought she heard something, she's like, drugs? I was like, oh Lord, I have left one of those already. I'm good. But here's what I wanted to teach you. They played right after it, because that's how my angels were, some kind of like sped up, slowed down, grindy version of Fall for Your Type by Jamie Foxx and Drake. And I was like, you guys are hilarious, my angels, that is, because what they wanted me to do was to teach about what it means to fall for your type and how we find ourselves in toxic relationships. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get into the lyrics. I've got them here pulled up. Can I save you from you? Cause you know there's something missing, and the champagne you've been sipping's not supposed to make you different all the time. It's starting to feel like the wrong thing to do, girl, because with all the recognition, it gets hard for you to listen to the things that I must say to make you mine. But live, girl, have some fun, girl, we'll be fine. Trying to convince myself I found one. Making the mistakes I've never learned from. I swear I always fall for your type. Tell me why I always fall for your type. I just can't explain this shit at all. I fall for your type. I will go back through and we'll kind of dissect that. But what I wanted you to understand is, as I was there chatting up this person, and I gave readings to other people, we chatted it up and had shots and had a good time. But I noticed that my energy wanted to save her. And I heard in my head, don't save her. She don't want to be saved. She got herself into her life and her situation, and I wasn't actually going to save her. But it made me realize the reason that things work out the way they do, and the reason that I have the life that I have, and the reason that I made the choices I've made, and also why I've left relationships I've left, because they're that type. There's a type. And do you have a type, I guess, is the lesson of tonight. What is your type? Let's go back through those lyrics. Can I save you from you? Because you know there's something missing, and the champagne you've been sipping is not supposed to make you different all the time. When I'm talking about falling for my type, I want you to compare it to what your type is. So I have my own addictions, and so I have found that I have fallen for people in the past when I was not in a healthier state that had addictions. I met this other counterpart that I'm talking about 20-something years ago. So I was young and not really healed and very broken when I met. A trauma bond for sure as we got into each other's energy. But what I will say here is the champagne you've been sipping is not supposed to make you different all the time. The counterpart that I fell for, the counterpart that I loved, had alcoholism, dealt with that, is an alcoholic and an addict, period, a pleasure seeker and a hedonist through and through. And because I spent a lot of time being conservative and as buttoned up as I can be, I found that I had an outlet in that. So I'm telling my truth here, because in order for you to understand why you fall for a type, you need to identify what your attraction is. For me, I got to live vicariously through her wild recklessness, right? I always fall for your type. So think about that. But there's a change that happens. So if you love somebody with addiction, there may be the champagne that you're sipping is not supposed to make you different all the time. There may be something that you notice that they're doing that takes them out of their character. In the splitting off of the relationship that I was dealing with, I realized that her addiction was turning her into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in a way that I was not equipped to deal with, nor did I want to. I could have invested my precious and beautiful energy into it, but I had already given enough. And I realized, like, oh, if I continue to fall for your type, if I've loved a narcissist before, even though you were covert and they were malignant, then there is something I have to fix in me, and that's what this video is about. Let's move forward. It's starting to feel like the wrong thing to do, girl. Now, that is a place you may come to in the relationship, whether it's a girl or a boy, a man or a woman, a divine masculine or a divine feminine, or you've identified them as your karmic, as I'm starting to really understand this person was my karmic and not necessarily my soulmate, which gives me hope because the soulmate is still out there. But y'all, I had a karmic. I had a karmic. I didn't even realize it. But here's what I will say here. It's starting to feel like the wrong thing to do. Your spirit team, if you are connected with your spirit team, will let you know that a relationship is out of balance and things will not work and there will be calamity and everything will fall apart. Even in what I extracted from the conversation with my stripper friend, she said that her dude came down here and got into trouble. We didn't expand upon what trouble meant, though I did intuit exactly what that meant. I saw drugs, I saw drama, I saw jail, I saw lies, I saw other baby moms bringing him things in commissary, putting things on his books. There was a lot that I saw that I didn't necessarily tell her, but I knew when she said trouble. I knew you were trouble when I met you. Wow, thank you for the confirmation. Magic mirror. That's my angels and my Simply Human mirror. But what I will tell you, that Taylor Swift song, I knew you were trouble when I met you. How many of you can identify being involved with any partnership that was toxic where you're like right away, I knew that it was a shenanigan. So I knew that even when I talked to that person, she had gotten into a trouble. And what that means to me, okay, even though I'm not in her life, was that her spirit team was working with her. No judgment about her job or being a sex worker or whatever. She is autonomous, living her own life and agency, and that may be in her chart. So I want to make another video about how we judge and how we're puritanical about sex life and sex work and all that stuff. Like, let's rein it in if we can, or let's blow it out of the box so that, y'all, don't even get me started, so that we can understand why someone may do that or what about them predisposes them for that. But in any case, I digress. Her angels were trying to intercede on her behalf, and that's why they removed this toxic counterpart from her. She may not know all of that or may not have put all of that together, but when I was talking to her, I was like, oh, he's in jail because your angels love you and they were giving you a second chance. Even though you're here, that doesn't mean anything. That relationship was more toxic than her being at that club. Does that make sense? So it's starting to feel like the wrong thing to do. Pay attention to the signs of not feeling comfortable in a relationship when it's toxic. Your angels and ancestors will start to alert you like, this feels so bad. For me, part of the reason is I started to feel so drained and so depleted, and my person that has passed away, the dearly departed, spiritually dearly departed, was like pulling my energy, trying to like feed this succubus. It was just too much. It was too much. In any case, I knew that my life was not going to be the same financially, emotionally, mentally, anything if I stayed connected. So it started to feel like the wrong thing to do. So ask yourself when it started to feel wrong. Because with all that recognition, it gets hard for you to listen to the things I must say to make you mine. In my case specifically, my person needed a lot of attention, so she cultivated that. She would do very wild things. I remember, I always fall for your type. The moment that I fell, she was doing something wild and crazy and totally inappropriate. We had this encounter by a graveyard, and it was inappropriate on 75, 50, 11 levels. I won't go too deep into the story, but what I will tell you is I remember her kind of climbing on me and me looking up at her and being like, she's crazy. But I loved it. But I love it, you know? Have you ever had a counterpart where you're like, I absolutely should not be with this person, but I love it? And that's how I felt. And so I was willing to risk it until later on, as time went on, that it was just like, I can't be, this is insanity. And it's so ironic for our situation. It began in the graveyard and ended there too. But what I will tell you here, in more ways than one, I have a video coming up about that too, about releasing partners after you have finished a soul contract. We definitely met our soul contract. So let's go forward though. Let's see, with all this recognition. Okay, so that means with all this recognition, that's dealing with having people in your ear, having a lot of other outside validation. So if you're dealing with a karmic, a divine masculine or feminine dynamic, what you'll notice is that for whatever reason, you're not able to kind of like get through. And it's because they have a lot of other outside stuff. So all the work you're putting in really is falling on deaf ears, because with all the other recognition, why would they at all need yours? And this is indicating to you that they have a type as well. See, while you're falling for their type, they have a type that they're falling for because they need to be more in alignment with the lower vibration. So you see the lady, let's go back to the strip club. She thought we had drugs. We did not. That is not my life at all. We were totally like square. Like our risque was we were there. That was it. But what I will tell you that I thought was really interesting was that she was gravitating and trying to connect with somebody that could be as toxic as the person that the universe just removed from her. You see, we all have a type we fall for. Let's go forward. But live, girl. Have some fun, girl. We'll be fine. I'm trying to convince myself I found one. Making the mistake I never have learned from. This is the energy of trying to turn a hoe into a housewife. And I'm not just talking about the sex worker, y'all. I'm actually talking about my dearly departed. When you have somebody that wants to be in the streets, that is for the streets, that loves the sneakiness and running around because they have a type. She grew up in a certain way and watched a certain thing, whether she admits it or not, it showed up in her life. The fruit of her life showed up. And for that person that's doing the work she's doing to feed herself, there's no stigma in that, but there is fruit in her life that shows up that predisposes her to have that. Now, if you're in a relationship that's toxic like this, you may try to convince yourself and gaslight yourself, because I sure did, that you're not dealing with what you're dealing with. Trying to convince myself I found one. That is indicating that you found the special person, maybe the soulmate, maybe the person that you exalt and put on a pedestal. You spend a lot of time trying to convince yourself that you have found one, and you're not learning from the mistakes that you've done before. Jamie Foxx brilliantly expresses that. And he says, and I always fall for your type. I swear I always fall for your type. As that song was oozing out of the speakers like molasses while we were in that club, and I'd had a lot of Diddy's Ciroc peach flavor, I suppose, that I will never drink again. I remember that melting over me. I swear I always fall for your type. It's a melt. It's like the dawning of the realization that just drips over you. Like, I do this all the time. I have to break myself out of these patterns because I can't keep falling for this type, because I can't live under the bridge. I can't forfeit my life. I can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved and who thrives in chaos as my counterpart did. So this is something you have to figure out for you. Why are you falling for the type you fall for? What chaos do they thrive in? What are they bringing or detracting from your life? So let's go up here. He says, so who am I to judge you on the past, girl? I bet there's a reason for it all. This is part of the convincing ourselves that we found one, and the gaslighting, the self-gaslighting that we do. Who am I to judge you on the past, girl? So we will ask each other in relationships, well, you know, I've made mistakes, you've made mistakes, you have exes, I have exes, we have X's and O's, right? But there's a reason for it all, he says. You say that you're nothing like the last girl. Now, sometimes, oh, this is the scary part. After we get over a relationship, a friendship, maybe a work relationship, this can apply in any of these areas. We might think, I have done it. I have extracted myself. I've got healthy boundaries. I figured stuff out. I am making different changes. And you go forward and you think that you are, and then you find yourself repeating patterns or recognizing or being even triggered as you're like, oh my God, is this just like the same crap I just left? This is something I definitely have gone through where I'm just like, oh, so this is a game too? Oh, okay, I get it. Angels, I get nothing. I was so struggling with that. But what I will say is that's happened to me in job situations or in relationships that have changed with narcissists over the years, where I've just been like, so, oh, okay, so this is the same thing that I just did. So that's something you got to pay attention to. And your angels will give you a bit of a heads up, right? So if our angels love us, and they do, they're wanting to make sure that we are at least protected, or that we have some awareness. So they will give you a heads up as you're in it. It'll drip over you and dawn on you like, this, something like this is just like the other thing. And that's something to pay attention to, guys. So, all right. Oh, nope. I went to Drake's part. Who am I to judge you on the past, girl? I bet there's a reason for it all. You say that you're nothing like the last girl. I just pray that you don't let me down right now, because it's too late. I'm already yours. You just got to promise me that hearts won't break and end up like before. Why do we try to extract that promise from somebody that we know is probably nuts? When we find ourselves in those juicy relationships that are exhilarating but exhausting, exhilarating and exhausting, and that's the caption for that, right? When you find yourself in those relationships It is so important to understand that those con artists, if you are in, for me, my person was actually a con artist, literally, actually that. Those con artists will tell you anything. And why do we try to get them to promise us anything? So I want you to check yourself before you wreck yourself, like I have done before. If you are trying to get someone to tell you that they're not going to do what you know for a fact, me going into a strip club and not thinking that a stripper might ask me for drugs is insane, right? It seems to be par for the course. So if you are in a relationship with a person who has just demonstrated rather toxic behavior or that energy, it is so important to understand that probably, yeah, they're going to screw you over. But we do that like, can you just convince me that you're not going to do what I think you're going to do? Yes, they're going to do what you think they're going to do. Does a hyena? I mean, whatever. Laugh, cackle. Yeah, it's okay. They're going to do that. But here's where he is. You've got to promise me that hearts won't break and end up like before. Well, usually the heart that gets broken is yours. If you're on this kind of cognitive end of it, where you're like thinking, I want to know. I want you to promise me. I want you to tell me. I want assurance. There are no assurances when you're dealing with someone who's unstable. This type of person. So this type of person specifically in this video, what they depict is like the hot crazy chick, right? So all of us has either dated a hot crazy guy or a hot crazy girl. Maybe they weren't even hot, but they were crazy, and the crazy seemed exciting. Like I talked about in the beginning, that graveyard moment initially was like, ooh, this is so outside of my vanilla life. However, it came with a litany of crazy lies, bullshit, games, shenanigans, side women, men, like drama. It was so ridiculous, and it wasn't who I was. The reason it was exciting to my vanilla life is because it was outside of my norm, but I tried to make what was outside of my norm my everyday, and it almost made me insane. So check yourself, guys. They will not be telling you the truth. You have to tell yourself the truth about the situation or the relationship. So this is Drake's verse. Now there are some parts in here that I think are fluff. I'm gonna skip past it. I've been down this road before, he says, and yeah, I skidded, but forget it. Damn, I wonder why I never learned my lesson. It's feeling like the second chance, and it's the first impression. And I heard it's nothing new except for someone new. But how are you supposed to find someone when anyone will come with you? I'm talking to myself, but I never ever listen, because man, it's been a while, and I swear that this one's different. That's why I'm gonna take you anywhere you want to go, let you meet my friends so they can lecture me once again about how reckless I have been, and I'm slowly running out of all the time that I've invested in making all the same mistakes, and I'm just trying to correct it, and I fall. I love that so much, y'all. First of all, I love Drake. Hashtag I'm gonna be I'm just such a big fan. There was one line, guys, where he said something about anyway, I will skip that. I'll do another video. I have some music theory videos and metaphysical lessons that I think are really connected. I want to kind of introduce the collective that may not be aware, some people that are watching these videos, to the amazing music that is across the board, especially with rap, hip hop, and the like, and how there are really powerful messages in there. I think that because of the stigmas, people overlook it, and there's good food. There's a reason that so many of us around the world, this is a culture. Anyway, that's another thing. I'm off my soapbox with that. I love this. So I'm going to go back into this just really quickly. I heard there's nothing new. It's feeling like the second chance, and it's the first impression. Damn, I wonder why I've never learned my lesson. And there's a part here where he says, how are you supposed to find the one when anyone will come with you? If I would have allowed myself to latch in other situations, you could pull in anybody toxic, but anyone is just anyone. They're not the one. So you see here how Jamie in the beginning says, I've been trying to convince myself that I found the one. Well, really, sometimes that one may just be anyone who is like willing to trauma bond with you, willing to connect in that unhealthy way, willing to kind of put themselves in that space. I love this part too, where he says, I'm talking to myself, but I swear I never listen because, man, it's been a while, and I promise this one's different. That's why I'm going to take you anywhere you want to go. So that talks about tricking and simping and being extra with somebody that may not be worthy of your time. And people that are toxic usually have an amazing way of manipulating their opportunists and getting things out of you that you probably wouldn't do for other people. So I thought that that was a really powerful nod. I'm going to let you meet my friends so they can lecture me once again about how reckless I have been. Usually, if in abusive relationships, isolation is one of the tactics. And the reason that that happens because the abuser doesn't want other people that are not insane to see. I was working with somebody recently, and they were relaying to me some information regarding a dynamic that happened with them and their spouse, and what people's perception was versus what was actually happening. So abusers, not to say that that person was in that situation, but abusers do not like for other people to see because they'll call it out and they'll say, oh, that's abusive, because they're not indoctrinated. The outside world's not indoctrinated to the abusive situation or the manipulation. What's interesting about this song is that it's from the perspective of males here, because we think that men or masculine energy cannot be pulled in to having and falling for a type. Some of you that are watching this video are on the divine masculine and feminine journey and understand that your divine masculine may have fallen for a type that was like his type. I always fall for your type. Just because you had a type doesn't mean that they didn't have a type. And so what I had to do in order to release this and actually be free so that I could find my soulmate and be happy and move forward is to understand that. And when I say that, this was a friendship. So for those of you that are confused, because I did have a great question. Belinda, shout out to you. Love you, sweet pea. Hope you're doing well. But I did have a great question from Belinda, who was saying like, well, you have a husband and you talk about still wanting to find like this connection. Well, for me, it's an emotional, soulmated kind of connection. Okay. So, and I don't believe that your spouse fulfills all of those things. That's just my personal belief. I'll be making a video about that. So that was a great question, Belinda. But the issue here with this for me was understanding that if you are isolated, people cannot observe. I remember having a good human be like, I'll come meet you, I'll come fly in, I'll come do this and that. And I kept pushing her away, not because she wasn't awesome and I didn't think she'd be great, but because I was conditioned by my abuser to not have any outside friends until she decided to change the rules. But for many years, I just lived by those rules, like whatever. And what I realized, it was because my abuser was just an asshole. Can we talk? Can we talk for a minute? She was an asshole. And she didn't want everybody to see. And now that I reflect back on it, I see the narcissistic ways. I see how I always fell for her type. And there were other friendships, best friendships and abusive relationships, friendships, platonic or otherwise, where there was abuse because I had a type. And that's what I want you guys to identify. That abuser didn't want other people around because they didn't want to see that she was in fact a type, or that there was a archetype. Let's talk about that. The archetype of her personality would be exposed. And it was exposed. I just didn't look back on it until I started to get healthy. In order to not have the predilection to fall for the type, you've got to get healthy. Because you can have your friends lecture you about how reckless you have been, but then you slowly have to ask, why did you make such an investment into a thing that was not for you, a thing that never did the thing you wanted to do, but a thing that drained you through and through. Don't fall anymore for that type. It's time to ask yourself why you are drawn there, and then to correct the thing in you that's broken. And that's from childhood, my loves. That makes you think that it's okay to be loved in a breadcrumby kind of way, that it's okay to be loved in a crazy kind of way, that lack of communication, clarity, honesty, and connection equates love, because that is you falling for a type, and that type is tribal. That type comes from childhood. That type comes from broken parents. That type comes from narcissistic mothers and fathers. That type comes from not being loved. That type comes from molestation. That type comes from sexual abuse. Why do you fall for that type? That type comes from a mother maybe that didn't embrace her own femininity and divinity and allowed things to happen around her and to her instead of standing up for herself. That type comes from a father that wasn't nurtured properly with love, that instead of healing that, decided to punish every woman after. Do you have a type? Because you'll see that type follow throughout your life. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Who am I to judge you for the past? There is a reason for it all. Maybe you're different than the last. I just pray that you won't let me down, but I swear. I always fall for your type. Divine Feminines, it's time for you to start falling for yourself. It's okay that you got a type. Clearly, we all do. Clearly, I still do. I just don't indulge anymore in my type. When I see my type, I'd make a note. I laugh. I hug my husband extra tight. And I wait for the soulmate that's right for me to come in. That knows how to be a grown woman. And knows how to move and operate. And knows how to provide the kind of connection that I thought I had convinced myself that I was having. But I swear I was just falling for what used to be my type. I just wanted to share that message with you guys. Ask yourself those questions. They're not easy, but they're necessary to evolve, and that's what this channel and my mission is all about. Thank you so much for joining me. Think about it, and then come back and join me next time, and we'll continue to evolve together.